one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Eric, we're going to start the meeting now. Sorry about that. I probably should have said that first. We're streaming online. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Oops, you wanted to pull?
Yes. Would like to pull GG4.
And we can take that.
No.
Everybody, we're just going to take a second. Mics don't seem to be working.
Can I add to that?
Already talked to him, so yes.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Good for this.
We're good, Melissa. All right, so we had a motion and a second to approve consent agenda and also to pull GG4 from that consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I add an agenda item?
Of course.
I would like to add that the fire chief come and just talk a little bit about some of the weather patterns, especially like what you do in emergency, particularly with tornadoes. We have the potential hurricane, all the flooding. But it first occurred to me when, tornadoes in particular are something that we're not really used to here. And if you're listening to the radio on the way home today, it was constant about like, if you're outside and mobile in a car, get somewhere, it's like, where do you go? What do you do? So if you don't mind, I'd like to have him say a few words.
That's a motion for Mary. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mary, you brought this up at the end of the last meeting after that tornado incident and suggested that the chief, so I'm glad that you brought it up again.
Mhm.
I did reach out to the chief before the meeting just so he was prepared. How about that? So got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Chief.
Good evening, everybody. Mike DeMello, Fire Chief. So certainly today's weather and the impending potential tropical storm or hurricane, whatever we get out of it, is a good reminder that severe weather can pop up relatively quickly. We've seen a lot of it, particularly this summer, due to the weather pattern that's going through. And really, what people should focus on is their own self-preparedness. We say you should be ready to be on your own for about 72 hours. And what does that mean? Really, that means make sure your family, your friends, everybody knows where you are. Make sure you have contact numbers of who to get a hold of. If you have medications, make sure you have enough. If you have generators, check your generators, and really have it an evacuation plan. And when it comes time for those types of things, really, the town, whether it's the town website, social media through the police and the fire department, or websites such as the National Weather Service, will really give you the most up-to-date and accurate information. And the reason why I kind of point those out is because there's a lot on social media, on the internet. And when you look at stuff, you really want to make sure it's accurate. There's a lot of hypotheticals out there. You want to know what's actually happening and what's actually coming this way. Ready.gov is a great website. There's tons of them, government-sponsored websites that just give you tips on how to prepare, whether it's for tornadoes like we saw today, which we really don't deal with all that often in this area, hurricanes, snowstorms, power loss, you name it, there's a guide for it. We have some guides available, little preparedness guides that kind of hit some of those most common ones. We have them available at the fire department. We have some back here on the counter with some of the public information. So people are welcome to take those, and they're really a nice little guide. But really the key points, if I could make tonight, is be prepared. Be prepared to be on your own for 72 hours, especially in a large scale event like a hurricane. If we were to get an impact that impacts the whole state, resources are very slim initially. We won't go out if it's not safe because we're not going to help you if we can't get there. So that's why that 72-hour thing is really important, and to be self-prepared to be on your own for that time frame. But once you get through that, rest assured, the town, the police, fire department, DPW, wastewater treatment, everyone's going to be there to do their part to get the town back up and running and make sure you're safe and help you out if you need it.
Can I just ask you one quick thing
Sure.
though, Mike? I mean, you're right, like we sort of used to certain kinds of weather events here, but not like a tornado. And the last meeting is when I think there was an issue that happened and I was like, oh, we should have Mike talk about this. Meaning today it was just constant with the weather alerts, like when you, especially if you're, when I was driving home. I mean, I wasn't really in the area where they were talking about. But, you know, and they're sort of like, if you're mobile, you better get to a safe place. Like, where would you go? Just to a store? Like, seriously, like if you were in an area and it's like, this could happen, you know, or it's like they saw something actually happening and you were in that area, like, where would you go?
Sure. So a couple of things. One, certainly if you can get out of the area, that's the best thing. So if you're in a vehicle and you are controlling that vehicle and you can go the other direction, that's the way to go. Really with tornadoes, they're kind of fast and furious. So you need to seek shelter, preferably in a basement, away from outside walls, away from windows, because tornadoes whip a lot of debris into the air, which can go through windows and walls, especially at 150, 200 mile an hour winds. Store might be an option. Pretty much anywhere you can take shelter out of the path of the tornado. I mean, the good thing or bad thing on how you look at it is tornadoes have a path generally. And we saw that tonight where it started in Connecticut and basically kind of went on a northeast path, and they generally don't go left and right all that often. So if you can get out of the path, that really is the key. And if you can't, really seek shelter. A basement would be the best, but if you can't, at least inside away from the exterior walls.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Chief, Mr. Administrator, please.
Remind people to sign up for code red. It's on the website. That's our emergency alert system. EMA, emergency management. Should email in there, your cell phones, your home phones. Should have many of the residents, but not everyone is registered. So
Mr. Administrator, so to register for that, is it right on the homepage?
it's on the homepage, at the bottom it says, it's a tab, it says emergency alerts.
So if you go to the town of Bristol, scroll to the bottom, it's right there. Excellent.
Signing up now.
Chief, anything else that you wanted to add?
That's it. I could go on forever, but thank you for a few minutes.
Thank you.
We ask that you don't, but we appreciate it though. Seriously, thank you for the clear guidance. It's most appreciated. Thank you. Mary,
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
suggesting it.
Thank
So
you.
can I have a
Thanks, Mike.
motion to, actually, we don't need a motion. I apologize. All set.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is A1 and A2. This is the town council meeting minutes from August 23rd and the executive session minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the public hearings. This is Leah Roberge for Roberge Enterprise LLC, doing business as River and Roads, 382 Thames Street, Unit 1. This is a request for transfer of the Class BV liquor license to Jennifer Medina for Cavallo Group LLC, doing business as Pisco and Tequila Bistro. This is under new ownership. You will also note that we did have two late items received at meeting, and these are two additional creditors for the record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So as the clerk just pointed out, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor?
I think the owners are.
If the owners are here,
Right.
you should probably speak in favor.
Right, I was gonna say.
Come on up. You can come right up
It's a
to the
good
podium
time.
if you would. We would have assumed you were speaking in favor, but we'd rather hear your
I think I'm a
words.
better speaker
So,
than he
yeah.
might be, so that's why I
If
think,
if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
sure. My name is Jennifer Medina, 6 Apple Tree Lane, Barrington, Rhode Island.
Thank you. Please.
So as with new ownership, we're looking for the to open up a Pisco and Tequila Bistro. As for the creditors lien, I was just advised that payments have been made. So moving forward from that, we're hoping that that can be taken care of when we're requesting the transfer of the liquor license to come over to us.
Once we get to that point, if this council so chooses to do so,
Mhm.
we would always make it contingent upon that. Anyway,
Correct.
it's just our normal course of action.
Yes,
So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
that will be all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor? I see a theme. Please state your full name and address for the record.
William Medina, 6 Apple Tree Lane. I'm Barrington.
Welcome.
So, good evening.
Good evening.
So I will just want to support my wife, and I think it's gonna be a great place to everybody to enjoy anytime they want for dinner and good pisco and tequila shots if you like one. But that's only gonna be the first day.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Any questions from the council? No.
No, I think we're all happy to see the lights hopefully going back on there and another good restaurant in town, another reason to come to town. So we're
Thank you
happy.
very
for
much.
these. You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to close public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C1. This is ordinance 2023-17. This is to section 12-57, composition and election. And this is to add an additional deputy chief, second reading.
Motion to approve the second reading?
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Discussion? Chief, if you would, I know we went in great lengths to explain what the purpose was last time. If you could just give a brief overview on this.
Sure. So we have two deputy chiefs. This basically takes the second deputy chief, adds it to the Board of Fire Engineers, which is comprised of all our volunteer chiefs and office personnel that govern the fire department. Really, this strengthens continuity of operations, sets the department up to provide a high level of service to the community that it expects and has received for hundreds of years, as well as supports our volunteer firefighters by providing another layer of administrative support. Quite frankly, easily, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was vitally important to the success of the department and the success of keeping the community safe in the future. So that's it in a nutshell.
Any questions for the chief? I'm going to take a moment and speak for this council and the people sitting right here with us to say thank you. Thank you to the men and women of the police department. And I know I'm talking to the fire department, but he's closer right now. This town and we so appreciate what the fire department does, what the volunteers do, what the full-time does. We are extremely fortunate and it does not go unnoticed to all. So thank you.
And then thank you and the council, because you're all part of the baseball team and we all work together and come out of the bullpen when someone else needs it. So it's
Well
a
said.
great thing we have in the town.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, next item on the agenda is C2. This is ordinance 2023-18, chapter 14 to the historic preservation, section 14-4. And this is to add an additional auxiliary member. It's a second reading.
Make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Aaron to approve. This came about, Tim, I believe you kind of started this process, correct? Yeah. This was because of scheduling with members of this board. So this was to add an additional board member. So we had a quorum, so meetings could happen when people were tied up doing other things, because it's a volunteer board, to make it available to the public so they could move along with their project. So
That's
nice
correct.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself due to an ongoing HGC project right now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C3. This is ordinance 2023-19, chapter 16, article 5, stopping, standing and parking. And this is for parking prohibited at all times. This is a correction to ordinance 2023-13 from east side to west side, first reading.
I make a motion that we consider this first reading and refer to the solicitor.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim. This constitutes first reading. Refer to the solicitor. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D1. This is Jennifer Medina, Cavallo Group LLC, doing business as Pisco and Tequila Bistro, 382 Thames Street. This is a request for Class BV liquor license transfer from Leah Roberge as Rivers and Roads.
Based on all the recommendations, going to make a conditional approval that all the liens must be satisfied before the Class BV liquor license can be transferred.
Sec,
Before you make the second,
Sure.
could you also add a 6-month review? We typically do
Yes.
that on new owners.
Thank you. Good point. And with a 6-month review.
second,
Discussion? So this is your 30-second commercial opportunity now. We don't normally do, you get up and spoke for it, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
I got to repeat
No,
my name. Okay.
we know who you are.
Okay, so we are looking to do a pisco and tequila bar. It's going to be a Peruvian and Mexican flavored mix. A lot of people hopefully like to drink pisco and tequila. For those of you who don't know what pisco is, it's a Peruvian rum, and tequila, we know the liquor that comes from Mexico. And just a lot of Peruvian dishes that we're looking to introduce to the Bristol community.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could I just ask you a quick question? Maybe you could
Absolutely.
just like explain the difference between Peruvian and Mexican.
So Peruvian is from South American, where Mexican is more of Central American. So they have different cuisines and different like flavors to their dishes. So that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could be specific. It's okay. That's okay. I just figured it, like what the flavors are different.
He can be more specific.
He's from Peru, is that-
No, he's from Guatemala, but it's similar. He's more of a expert in that
I just
area.
think because, you know, that's sort of like popping up in a lot of places around Rhode Island, around New England. But it would be nice if you could explain a little bit, like people are pretty familiar with Mexican food, but like what is this like little flavor
Yeah,
profile?
I can have
that
him
they should
explain
try.
to you.
This commercial's gone really long. Go ahead.
I'm gonna be very short, okay?
Go
Only 20 minutes. No, back in 2008, I purchased a restaurant. It was Peruvian restaurant, and then it was the best food I ever tried in my life. Peruvian food is a taste. It's like a mixture between Chinese food and Italian food and South American food. In Peru, you really can eat one plate a day for 1 year without repeating a meal. That's how much different kinds of food they have. They have like 428 kinds of potatoes, over 3,200 different kinds of quinoa. So Peru is really the place that is right now all over the place, the best restaurants and United States, Europe, because the Peruvian flavor is just popping up. It's #1, I think, 2 years ago, and it's staying #1 or #2. Right now, I think Bristol needs something like this. I know they opened one place in Gooding Avenue. It's not the same thing, but it's very similar in many ways. But it's so many different kinds of plates that we're gonna focus more in the small portion decorations, because this is more bistro than what she does is more like daily plates or fast food or something like that. Ours will take a little bit, not that long, I promise. It's not like 35, 40 minutes. But it
Not
will
like
be
this
like,
commercial, right?
Yeah. So if you,
So
any
I
other
can-
question?
We're looking forward to it. So. it
And
seems
then
that-
for Mexico, you're just gonna have the taco, different kinds of tacos, quesadillas, burritos, Mexican bowls and stuff like that.
so it will be
Sounds
up to us to try it, to go to both and then make a comparison. Am I correct?
You can come and the self-opening, everybody's welcome.
Okay.
You just gotta pay. That's-
No,
I'm just kidding.
You're not approved
Thank
yet.
you.
Yeah, it's just-
No, everybody's welcome for the soft opening. We're trying to do something really small, but I know everybody will love it.
Thank
I
you.
promise.
Thank you.
And with that, we obviously we want to be very respectful with the community. It's not something that's gonna be like, partying all this. Just a bistro with the, good drinks and very limited. Like as long as we respect the law, that's the most important, and the community around us too.
Well, we appreciate that. So we're looking forward to the experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Any
info.
Any
questions?
other-
yes, Mr. Chairman, just I in note to the chief, the Mellows recommendation, he requested that there is no objection to granting said license, provided a life safety inspection is performed by the fire marshal prior to the opening. So
We have already, I spoke with the chief
Chief gave a
About-
thumbs up already.
and
did. Okay. Then
I
you're good.
already made the appointment, but they never called me back. So and then I forgot about it. And I saw him and we're gonna take care of that before we open. We're gonna make sure everything is safe, before we open. So this is my number 10 restaurant. So
Oh, wow.
I just,
Right.
You'll be happy to know that as we just stated before, is that our approval, if it's granted here in a moment, is inclusive of all the recommendations,
Yeah.
right? So even though we don't express them, if we add something, for example, the 6-month review, we'll express that, but it's assumed that all the recommendations are followed unless we call them out, that we don't want to do that. So
no, it's
That's good.
okay. We're ready for that. And honestly, just wanted to be very respectful with the town of Bristol. And if you ask about us for the business that we have, we purchased Green Eggs, 3-4 years ago? And I think he's doing phenomenal. So we're just trying to make it better and make the community a little bit more diverse with a lot more different kinds of food,
So you own Green Eggs?
Yes,
Oh, good. Okay.
but we sold it to someone else too.
Oh,
So now they taking care of that.
you are. a
She
busy
used to
person.
be my waitress. And now they purchased with the husband. They used to live in New York and the Bronx. And it was really crazy. I said, listen, you guys need to come down here in Bristol. This is a beautiful small town that you can raise the kids. They have 2 beautiful kids and they love soccer. And I think it will be, they're really happy. They live in Warren and they brought the entire family. Now the mother is here, the sister is here. So they think everybody's gonna come over.
Mr. Administrator, do we have an opening for travel and tourism? Absolutely outstanding.
But any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we had a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck. Yes.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D2, and this is Jennifer Medina, Follow Group LLC, Peace Going Tequila, and this is the request for the victualling license.
Based on the recommendations, I move that we approve it.
second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Congratulations. We look forward to your new establishment.
The next item on the agenda is D3. This is Angela LaQuarrie for East Bay Laundromat, 26 Gooding Avenue. And this is a request for public laundry license. This is under new ownership.
I make a motion that we approve it based on a recommendation.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D4. This is David Scarpino, the chairman of the Bristol Christmas Festival. This is a request for one-day dancing and entertainment license for the Bristol Christmas Festival in front of the Burnside Building on December 9th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and December 10th from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion?
Just can't believe Christmas is on the agenda. Here we go.
4th of July and Christmas. Isn't
I
that
know.
crazy? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D5. This is Liz Patton for the Benjamin Church Manor Tenants Association, and this is a request for their annual senior citizens bingo license.
I make a recommendation. Yes, I recommend that we approve based on the recommendations.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D6. We have Kevin Francis from the Bristol Golf Club, Inc., doing business as the Clubhouse, 95 Tupelo Street. And this is a request for modification for expansion of the Class BV liquor license premises, and this is called for public hearing on October 4th.
I make a motion that we move to consider this for the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to call for public hearing on October 4th. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D7. This is Michelle Martins for the Bristol 4th of July Committee. This is a request for one-day dancing and entertainment license for the wine tasting fundraiser event to be held on September 21st, 23.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is license renewals. This is Andrew Breslin from Pearl Holdings LLC, doing business as The Nest, 29 State Street. This is the 6-month review of the transfer of the license.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there discussion?
No
Lieutenant St.
calls.
Pierre, any no calls, no issues, no
No calls.
concerns?
Nope.
Excellent. All right. Any other discussion?
Yeah, it's great news. No calls.
I
It's good.
agree.
I know, yeah.
That's exactly what we like to hear. So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is E2. This is Jeffrey Quinlan, Eden's Pub, 5 John Street. This is a 3-month review of the dancing and entertainment license.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there any discussion?
No major issues reported, which was great. So
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is E3. This is Adam O'Brien from O'Brien and Rowe from 500 Wood Street, Unit 112. This is a 6-month review of the dancing and entertainment license.
based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary to approve. Is there any discussion? Actually, just real quick, this is just really great to hear.
Yeah.
We do these reviews to catch issues. Hopefully we don't catch them. And it's just wonderful to see that that's exactly what happened here. So thank you to these businesses for doing exactly what you said you were going to do.
Yeah. Oh,
Any other
excellent.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F1. This is Carrie Costello from Wicked Good Healing LLC, 295 Hope Street. This is a request for an accessible parking space in front of the business establishment on the west side of Hope Street. First reading.
Based on the recommendations, make a motion to send it to the solicitor to draft the ordinance for the first reading.
Second.
We don't generally do an ordinance for the accessible parking. It's done by resolution on the second reading.
Okay. So moved. First reading.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony, that this constitutes first reading. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D2. This is David Scarpino, the chairman of the Bristol Christmas Festival Committee. This is a request for the use of town property and permission to sell and serve alcoholic beverages for the annual Christmas festival, Saturday, December 9th, 2023. The event is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but alcohol will be served from 12 p.m. to 6, and on Sunday, December 10th, 2023, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is F3. This is Michelle Martins for the Bristol 4th of July Committee. This is a request for permission to use and sell alcoholic beverages at the Maritime Center to hold a wine tasting fundraising event on September 21st.
Based on the recommendations, I move that we approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. A question. Does it feel like we've done all of this at earlier ones?
One was the dancing and entertainment.
Ah,
but they were
thank
just in
you.
Different sections of the
I
agenda.
just had this reoccurring theme going
I
on.
know.
Any other discussion?
The public hearing and then the.
Yeah.
actual-
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is I1. This is from the Office of Secretary of State, and we have Lauren Fargady in regard to the Rhode Island 250 Program Coordinator, and this is for the formation of the local 250th Municipal Committee.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Council Chair and Council members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight about an important initiative currently underway. My name is Lauren Fogerdine. I'm the program coordinator for the Rhode Island 250th Semi-Quincentennial Commission. I know it's a mouthful. You can also call it RI 250. I'm also here today with Senator Loria, who will give some remarks later, and the Deputy Secretary of State, Rob Rock. In 2026, we are set to mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. For some, this milestone may elicit memories of the excitement associated with the bicentennial period in our nation. I'm here to bring attention to this tremendous opportunity for each community across this state and nation alike. Thank you for having us here today in the beautiful town of Bristol to promote the creation of the local 250th committee here. RI 250 has been charged with developing ways to recognize and honor this anniversary in our state. The mission of the commission is to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our nation, the events throughout history in which our beautiful state has had a massive influence and our largely forgotten role in the formation of our nation. Most notably, our contributions to the ideals of freedom, equality, and independence. We at the Commission are most excited to help facilitate this milestone statewide and years-long multifaceted commemoration. We intend to engage as many Rhode Islanders as possible, and we believe the natural next step is to organize at the municipal level. One of the duties of the Commission is to collaborate with local organizations to promote the pivotal role that Rhode Island played in the founding of our country. Therefore, we would like to take this time to invite Bristol to organize a local 250th committee to encourage the most comprehensive and inclusive commemoration possible. I have shared with your town clerk a pamphlet provided by the American Association for State and Local Histories, also known as AASLH, who have taken the reins on this project from the national level. Although this information is directed at a larger commission like RI 250, I find the resources and toolkit outlined in this are helpful for this endeavor. The example of a working group seems like the best approach. Our neighbors in South Kingstown have been celebrating their 300th anniversary this year. The programming, academic resources, and public engagement have been significant. The town has marked this unique milestone with a lecture series on the town's histories, a large-scale bonfire, and elevated regular events like their annual Arts and Culture Festival and what they like to call River Fire. The town will install a 14-foot sculpture designed by the influence of their history and identity as a community in their town green. The opportunities are really endless with this particular milestone. Commemorative events like the semi-quincentennial can bring communities together and promote a sense of identity. There is so much progress to celebrate. During my time with RI 250, many people look back on the bicentennial with fond memories, and I think we can make this the best commemoration yet. The Rhode Island Department of State envisions coordinated projects with each municipality that can include pop-up archives events and presentations. Today, I brought a small collection of formative documents from the town of Bristol and a collection of photographs that are currently being maintained by the state archives. They're actually located in the back with some of our rack cards and some of the information on the commission. These documents range from the Act of Incorporation of Bristol from 1746, Bristol are the men in Rhode Island and their rights to bear arm. It was a census of 1777, and there's a number of Bristol residents that were listed. Also, there was an electors meeting for the president and vice president, who would be President Abraham Lincoln, that was actually held in this particular town. There's also a photograph of the damage that was done to the Rhode Island State Armory here, or National Guard State Armory, following the hurricane of 1938, and the graduation program from the Bristol High School class of 1976. So for the bicentennial, they wanted to mark that particular class, and you can look for some people that you may know in the back. This is an example of the types of displays that can be curated at a Bristol 250 event in coordination with the Rhode Island Department of State and State Archives. In addition, Rhode Island 250 hopes to coordinate projects with each municipality, including an evergreen program that would have the planting of elm trees here in the town green or wherever you may choose. Today, I come to you to urge that this council establish a committee to mark this milestone. Thank you very, very much for having me, and I would like to introduce Senator Loria to speak on this particular initiative.
Welcome, Senator.
Council, thank you very much for having me come to speak. The Secretary Amori asked me to come and represent the state government in asking the town of Bristol to take this important step in forming a committee so that we can plan a celebration for our 250th US creation. I assured the Secretary, and I'm sure I did not do so out of hand, that no town more than Bristol would be ready to take on this celebration, as clearly it is pride and joy to celebrate our start of our country every 4th of July. So I know that the legislators are ready to help if there's anything that we can do. And I just urge the council to please form this committee and let us know if there's anything at the General Assembly that we can do to help.
Give us some guidance. Would you,
Yeah.
what does the committee typically comprise of? Is it, are we looking for particular members? How many typically are on this? And when would some committee like this need to be formed?
So I think that that's going to be up to the town of Bristol, how many people you would want on it. I think that the hope of the secretary is that it would be formed fairly soon. It wouldn't be a large endeavor initially,
So
but
Senator,
just.
if you could just stop for a second, is anybody interested? If you could raise your hand right now. 'Cause- Did it really? All right, excellent. No, but I joke, but if, just since we're talking about this right now, there's people watching from home. If you're interested, please reach out to the town. And we will obviously advertise it, but get a head start on it. So
Right, I
please
think that
continue.
it's intentional that this is happening more than 2 years before the celebration would start, so that those plans could be made. I think that every town will make their own mark on this celebration, and it's
Okay.
up to Bristol how they decide to do that. But obviously with the guidance of the Secretary of State and the archives.
Will there be state money
I'm not
to
sure
help
of that.
support the event?
So currently at this moment, we are working to have an increase in our funding, and we love to uplift the municipalities. That's something that we hope to have in the future. We are exploring options for fundraising in the meantime, and we hope in the coming years, especially in 2026, to provide some financial support as well.
And I just had a question in regards to, once the committee is formed, how quickly should we form it? And number two, will this committee regularly check in with the state to say, hey, we, have questions or progress? What are other towns
Yeah, of
doing? That
course.
sort of thing. Is there a wider network?
So we currently have 3 that are in the process of being established. So this is all relatively new.
Okay.
I'm here to help facilitate this process as much as I possibly can. I know that the secretary is also very willing to help with this progress as well. I hope in the future that we will kind of have a back and forth relationship. I'm happy to facilitate in any way. I trust in the town of Bristol to be
Okay.
able to coordinate these programs and projects, but we are here to elevate in any way that we can. So,
Thank
yep.
Thank you.
I would just
Lauren,
like to say, I think ideally, that, this would go across the town. So options for the school department to become involved as well. And it's meant to be like a year-long celebration.
So were you looking for it to be on Rhode Island Independence Day, like that May 4th is like the culminating event? Is that it? Oh, I think that's the date. Not,
I mean,
it doesn't have to be the culminating event,
So
but that's the
that's-
big date.
that's kind of the whole reason that we are starting now. I mean, some states have started since 2018, but we want to promote the most inclusive and largest scale commemoration possible. And obviously, being the first state to declare independence and the rightful claimant to the spark of the American Revolution, we want to celebrate all of our particularly unique history. So whatever that may look like in each municipality, we are leaving it up to them, but the state will be working to create programming and events leading up to that to mark this particular milestone, especially our first act of renunciation of the king.
Mhm. I mean, I think that there's a lot of ways to go about this. And, my first thought when I read through this was, to maybe make like a subcommittee of the 4th of July committee, because I think that's going to end up being like the big event. But obviously you might want to commemorate like the Rhode Island Independence Day and other things. along the line. So I think there's a lot of different ways, as long as, even if we do a separate committee, they just need to be really coordinated. I mean, that's the thing. We don't want multiple people doing, things at cross purposes, like there'll be two parades on 4th of July. Obviously that's like an extreme example.
That's an extreme example. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
But, that's my worry about like making sure we do that. I mean, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I've been on some like bicentennial of the Constitution, things like that in the past myself. It's been kind of cool. So.
Lauren, thanks for, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tony.
You go first.
Okay, all right, yeah. Lauren, thanks for showing up today. Senator, thanks for showing up. Where's Rob Rock at? Oh, there's Rob hiding behind. Thanks, Deputy Secretary, for showing up. I think that this is great for civic education and engagement. I think it's always good if we're looking back and celebrating our heritage and everything like that, learning more about our national symbols and things like that. I think that it's important for all of our kids to see that. I think it's important for everybody to learn about our history. I kind of like what Mary said there. I actually had something about 4th of July committee on here too, but the only thing I worried about with that was that I would almost see also the tourism, folks from tourism being interested in this, the churches being interested. Linden Place, I think, would have a role in something like this. Mount Hope Farm, some of the business community would probably be interested in this. And then, of course, the schools and Roger Williams University, I think, would have a lot to offer. And I know that a lot of those folks aren't on the 4th of July committee, but I don't think that precludes us from
a different subcommittee that's under them that works together with them.
Right.
Because, I mean, if like the route of the 4th of July parade and also the interfaith service, which is a big, really wonderful, successful event, those both started at the bicentennial of the Constitution year. And so there's things that they may, working together may add another dimension to the 4th of July celebration as well. It's just what came into my mind as I looked at this.
First thing that I thought of too. And I think a lot of positive synergy there between maybe that and maybe an adjunct to the 4th of July committee or something like that. But the question I have for Lauren is in terms of like South County, for instance, I know that I read through the document, everything, and there's some cool things that you can do where you can say something along the lines of, we're going to have 13 members because there was 13 colonies when, we were formed and everything. And, but how's South Kingstown doing this? I know Warren actually has actually had some folks who are beginning to become appointed to this commission. I know one of the town council members last night became a member of it. How many members in South Kingstown? How are they going about it?
South Kingstown actually has a larger committee.
Okay.
This has been a large scale program for them and it's been really successful, and certainly as a member of that community, it's been a really great thing for us to experience. I can't speak to the exact number, but I know that there are at least 15 people involved with that process. And they've been extremely successful in that. I know that I've been speaking with, I believe it's the Warren Preservation Society has kind of taken the reins on this particular, the vice president, Sarah Weed, she's looking for members if anyone happens to live in Warren. But from the American Association, they've kind of recommended leaning into these historical organizations that have been working on programming for the semi-quincentennial for years now, like a Daughters of the American Revolution and what have you. But it really is a matter of preference, whatever. Bristol certainly has plenty of experience with planning around the 4th of July. And I think that you guys would be probably best with a subcommittee kind of underneath the 4th of July. I think that would certainly provide a lot of synergy, as you explained earlier. So I know that the American Association also recommends, I think it was 10 members for each group. So
yeah. So in terms of like, if there was like a subcommittee of that 4th of July committee, and I don't want to go down this road too much, but yeah, I know exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But if something like that happened, we wouldn't have to have like people become appointed to the 4th of July committee and then become part of a subcommittee, would we? Or is there
Totally our
an
call.
easier way of doing that?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably keep it simple.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe they want to be
So-
both. The 4th of July committee is looking for new members all the time. So,
Right, and then be like the subcommittee, and then, because they might keep it, and a lot of what we would do for this is already in place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's added attractions, of course, But I think a lot of it is already in place. So we've got like a 200 and something year running start and mostly everybody
Yeah,
else.
I'd say so. You're certainly very lucky and well equipped for this particular milestone. Yeah.
So Chairman and colleagues, do we need to add this to the October 4th meeting as like a formal formation?
I
As
bet,
we,
I bet this
Just
evening
a-
we could take
or do you
a
wanna-
vote to, that we support creating this committee
okay,
and then take steps to discuss how we want to, how many members do we want? How do we, some discussion happened here this evening about having it part of the 4th of July committee, for example. So I think we could have some more discussion about it, but I think this evening, if this council concurs,
Mhm.
that we can take a step to say, yes, we want to do this.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, I think that's perfectly
Yeah.
like appropriate. I'm just wondering if we should, instead of us just sort of brainstorming this idea at the next meeting, pass it on to our administrator and have one of the departments like actually talk to the, so you've got the tourism aspect, you've got the, the 4th of July committee, that somebody could actually say, yes, they're interested in it, they're not interested in it, so that we can, the next meeting, we can
Plan.
take it from there.
and we can plan with the other groups as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, and then
That's the
who
only
else they
reason-
would want on there, like,
That's right.
who don't they have? Like, if they take this on, I'm not saying they will, who don't they have? They might not have the Historic Society.
Mhm.
What is the Historical Society? You mentioned them, like, what are they already doing on working on this? So I think it would be nice to have a little bit more information on what people are already doing in town about this. So this has been put out not just to the municipalities, but all the historic organizations. Is that it?
Most of, from my experience with the Rhode Island 250th Commission, most of these historical organizations are very familiar with this particular upcoming milestone and are organizing for that milestone within their organization. So we have Rhode Island Historical Society, Newport Historical Society. We have a number of these organizations sitting on our particular commission.
Mhm.
So it would not surprise me if they were already well-versed on this and willing to contribute.
If I could
in
just like
Bristol.
take your idea, Mr. Chairman, and make that into a motion, but to pass it along to the administration. You may want to give it to someone in his administration to do a little bit of legwork for us to find out who is interested in this,
Yeah.
what some groups have already done. It does by no means needs to be a complete list, but at least we would have like a little bit better direction.
Lauren, do we have your contact information for
Yes.
some kind of, we'll call it
Mhm.
guidelines and some guidance on next steps?
Yeah.
Yes, of
here.
course. I will be sending some of the digital archives to Melissa
Yeah.
later this evening. So
Thank you. So we had a
I'll
motion.
second that.
Okay.
with
We
some
had a
discu-
second
with
from
some
Tony. Discussion.
Yes, rather than just narrow it down to the administrator, he's got to play it full. I would say we should advertise, advertise and entertain for the next meeting, anyone interested in serving on this committee, to put their name forth. I mean, we haven't even narrowed down how many people should we include and all that, which could be part of the discussion at the next meeting. But I would say we should advertise to open up to the wide range, to the community at large, rather than just narrow down. I mean, some of them were very stated, the Historic Society, Rasham's University, the school, the churches. I think will be nice representation, but I think we should open it up, to the community at large.
I just want to say
So-
one thing to be clear. I was not prohibiting that.
Right.
I
No,
was
no,
thinking, I was like
right.
thinking we would need a structure first. Like, what is that structure going to be? And then, okay, we're going to put it as a separate committee and then hope they're going to work with the 4th of July committee. That's one way to go. The other way is, okay, they're going to take it on as a subcommittee. And who else do we need to add to that? So that's why I personally wouldn't do it that quickly. I would figure out what that structure is going to be, but so I don't want anybody to think that I was not
Mhm.
going to include anybody
Oh,
else.
No,
Yeah.
I understood.
Yeah.
You were just saying, can we get some folks at this point? Yeah.
And the only thing I'd add to the motion is if we could just include an update on the October 4th meeting, once we hear back.
So we had a motion and a second that
I
it
love
sounds like we
that.
all support this. So we definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
And
Especially
it sounds,
Saturday,
I
keep it
think
on.
what's going on, and you can hear it, we're trying to
Of
form a
course.
committee and what it's supposed to do in the middle of another meeting. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So you heard a lot of great questions
Mhm.
from this council. I think I do believe that it should be advertised, but I think first we should for example, when you said South Kingstown had a big committee of 15, honestly, I was thinking,
Yeah.
that's not a big committee.
Oh, yeah, it's, I think for a town, it is a little large, but I know that a lot of it's volunteer based.
And again,
so,
that's not giving South Kingstown a hard time. It's just, I was picturing something else,
yeah.
which is kind of to the point that's happening, right?
Mhm.
So I think what we need to do is decide what we're asking of these volunteers of
Sure.
this committee,
Mhm.
and then go out and ask for those
Yeah, of
volunteers. So I like all of what I heard here. So I think we have a motion to support this. And I think at our next meeting is that we can, Mr. Administrator, and maybe we can work with you to come up with some good ideas along with you, Lauren,
Yeah.
for what next step should be. And at our next meeting, we can then approve to go out to
course.
advertising.
Perfect.
Okay. Does that work for everybody?
It works for me.
If I was retired, I'd take it on. I love big events.
It should be fantastic. I know Bristol will do a great job.
I have no doubt.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to belabor the points or anything, but as long as we have Lauren here, like, let's say that the 501c3 is, in charge of this, then there'll be kind of the vehicle for where funding might be able to go and things like that. So if if there is an organization that is interested in doing these types of things, there might be some possibilities that they're not going to have to be taking money out of their own pocket for all of it, right?
Of course, yeah, that's currently what we're exploring at the state commission is the fiscal agent role and what that may look like, and hopefully be able to elevate a municipality like the town of Bristol in the future. So,
Okay.
And in that budget, we'll have to, whoever's on the council will have to put extra money in for all these events too.
I see that.
I know
Lots to
that
talk
South
about.
Kingstown has
Yes.
done a number of fundraising efforts and merchandise, things like that, to help alleviate some of those stressors as well.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to it.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you very
discussion?
much. Thank you.
Hear any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thank you
you
very much. Thank you for having me.
for all, for taking the time to explain this to us, and we appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I2. This is Superintendent Anna Riley, and this is in regards to request for a letter of support for the Stage 2 capital plan application.
Madam Superintendent, nice to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you. So as you know, we are embarking on a new 5-year capital plan, of which we have already kicked off stage 1 and started the process to work towards our end goal, which is to submit stage 2, or I shouldn't say end goal, next step in the process is submitting a stage 2 to RIDE. What I shared with the council is a request for a letter of support from the council. RIDE articulates a very specific table of contents that's required for stage 2, one of which is a letter of support from the town councils, both Warren Town Council, which we were at last evening, and then this evening we're at the Bristol Town Council, also the school committee, who provided their letter on Monday evening. So this is part of the package, and it's the next step in the process. So it still doesn't get us over the end goal. Our next milestone will be the ballot question in November, and the approval of our stage 2, we hope in December by RIDE. So the submission of stage 2 includes our request for the projects and entitles us to that reimbursement that you keep hearing about. So as you know, Bristol Warren's base reimbursement is 63%. We are eligible for bonuses up to 83% reimbursement. Once RIDE receives our stage 2, they'll actually do a quick review and estimate which bonuses we're eligible for, and then provide us that in writing, so that that's something we can share in our campaign for the bond vote, what the reimbursement will be, which we believe it will be the 80%. And that's what we're hoping that RIDE will see in our stage 2 that we qualify for, and we'll put that in writing for us. So this request for your letter of support is to move on to the next phase, which is submitting stage 2 this Friday. We do have our architects and our OPM with us, and we have a very brief summary. If you want us to review that with you,
I do. Actually,
Okay,
Eric, if
perfect.
you would, so we have it in your digital format. We're going to put it up on here.
Great.
It'll be easier to see and explain, and also for the people at home.
Absolutely. I think it's a nice short overview for the public. And I'll just ask our architects to join me, because they will be the ones to kind of walk us through that. I think Joe will also share a little bit of the overview for stage 2 so that you know what else is going into that submission in addition to your letters. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joe Drown. I'm with Perkins Eastman Architects. I'm here tonight with Rob Santos, our project architect, and we'll be going into some of the details. But just to give you an overview of what we've been doing for the last several months, is we've been going through this process of evaluating the schools. We've developed a feasibility study, and that feasibility studies documents the process that has taken place and the decisions have been made by the school building committee and how those conclusions came to be by evaluating the different options to be considered and as well as different sites. From that, we've developed, we've come to a conclusion of what the final solution would be, which is the new high school and renovations to the remaining middle schools and middle school and high and elementary schools. We will also be including a cost estimate and project budget in that submission, a financing plan, and then of course local support. We were at the town meeting council meeting in Warren last night and here tonight. And we'll be including a project schedule that will outline the duration of the project and what the construction schedule looks like, as well as commissioning of the building, making sure that the building is commissioned to make sure that mechanical systems are installed correctly, as well as the educational systems.
Hi, I'm going to talk briefly about the upgrades to the middle school. Sorry. I'm here to, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm here to talk briefly about the upgrades to the middle school and the elementary schools. What you see on the screen right there is Kickamuit Middle School. So the presentation will be done in this format with the reconfigured floor plans on the right and a bullet list of items that are going to be in the scope of work for each school on the left. And what we've done is we've taken the Jacobs 2017 Facilities Condition Assessment and the 2022 Colliers Facilities Condition Assessments, also known as FCAs, and done our own investigation into the various different buildings, and also taken into consideration the fact that the school district wants to reconfigure the grades to elevate fifth grade to the middle school building. So in Kickamuit, what you're seeing is a reconfiguration of the grades that includes a 5th and 6th grade academy on the first floor and a 7th and 8th grade academy on the second floor. And what this allows is it allows for the students to be in their appropriate age groups and together and in teams, as they would like to do for the educational program. And along with that, to address the FCA items that were of concern, a new roof on the old portion of the building or the taller portion of the building, site improvements like site lighting, paving improvements to the parking area, and security, and most importantly, MEP upgrades, which have been things that have been noted since 2017 report. If we could look at the next slide, Hugh Cole School. This is an elementary school, obviously, and because of the addition of the pre-K to this school, we've moved some of the classrooms around. Essentially, the pre-K comes into the north section of the building, which is on the left, and grades are reconfigured towards the right. You see the library in the 4th grades and in the right section of the building, which is the south section of the building. That section of the building also has an old roof, which is going to be addressed. Valves and hydronic piping and other MEP upgrades will be done in this particular building. There are many issues with accessibility and ADA on the south side of the building, the older portion of the building, which would be addressed. Bathrooms would be made accessible. Door swings would be corrected, door openers added where it's impossible to reach ADA standards. So there are many little ADA items and accessibility items in this building that need to be taken care of. Otherwise, it's also responding to that reconfiguration work. Next slide, please. At the Rockville School, it's a much smaller reconfiguration. There's a pre-K coming in, music room is being moved, and there's a pre-kindergarten playground being added to the exterior. But the building work is much the same of just ADA and MEP upgrades. The Rockwell MEP upgrade is probably the largest of the elementary schools. We've heard that it's in very bad shape, so we wanted to address that. Next slide. And at Colt Andrews, of course, there's also the reconfiguration happening here, with work happening on the inside of the buildings to make it accessible and comfortable for the student body. On the exterior, we're looking at site safety improvements. And there had been some, I'm sure the council has heard of talk of reconfiguration of the street to allow safety. But we're relooking at that proposal to see if we can address safety needs without closure of the street. So that's currently in progress, and otherwise it's much of the same scope we've just discussed. Thank you.
Next slide. Thank you. So this is the high school, and just for those who are not as familiar with it, what we're doing is we're putting a new high school on the site, and that allows the existing high school to continue to function while the new construction is being done. So we have the track and field to the western portion of the site. We have baseball to be brought back onto site on the eastern portion of the site, and then we have rebuilding of the tennis courts on the southern portion. Next slide, please. So the building is really organized in a very simple way. It's we're trying to create a public zone, which you can see that's running rather northerly and southerly. So at the top of the slide, you can see there is the gymnasium. As you move southerly, that's the auditorium, and flanked by the administration suite. So that's the main entrance to the building. Nice secure entrance. All students that are coming in on both sides of the administration into the lobby there. And then to the eastern portion, you see the classroom wing. So we can secure the building from a public zone to the educational zone. The first wing, as you look at the plan on the southern side, is the freshman academy. And the middle wing is grades 10 through 12. And then lastly, the northern wing is the CTE program and support spaces. I'd also like to mention that the CTE is spread throughout the school, but that area is focused on the shop space. And then southernmost is the media center, kind of the central part of this public expression on the outside of the building. Next slide. On the second floor, it mirrors what's happening below. So you see on the southern portion, we have, again, the freshman academy. This middle wing is the 10th through the 12th. And lastly, there is the CTE space at the top. And next slide. On the third floor, we continue with the classroom wing for the 10 through 12. So you can see that the third floor is actually screened by the freshman academy to the south and the CTE space on the north. And next slide. So this is a view from the west looking to the east. And you can see that there's a parent drop-off to the west side at the main entrance. And what you're looking at is Silver Creek. We're looking at reestablishing that zone so that the natural plants can reestablish and grow by pulling construction away from the creek. We also have views about the classroom wings. So next slide. This is a view from the east looking back towards the west, and you can see how those classroom wings are shaded or shaped from from the site on this side. We also have the bus drop off on this side of the site. Next slide, please. And this is a view more down at streetscape, looking back at the building. So that's the media center and reestablished Silver Creek. Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you.
Good.
Did you have
Oh,
questions?
yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
do have
I
some
do.
questions, yeah. Especially maybe for the Eastman group over here. I was hoping that you might be able to walk us through a little bit about what are some of the features of the school improvements that will make our kids safer in comparison to the current facilities that we have. So of course, I think forefront in all parents' minds is the safety of our kids. What are some of the things that we're doing with this new design, not just the high school, but some of the other ones as well, that will allow everybody to be rest assured that our kids are safer than they were before?
Yeah, security has been a major concern from the school department from day one. And it's been a focus of the design team looking into safety, both from a site circulation all the way out to the edge of the sites and into the building. So we're looking at improving how students move in the building. And we do that, say, in the high school by making sure there's plenty of space. So security is not just about some of the tragedies that we hear and see on the news media. It's also some of the things that we encounter day to day within the school, student to student and so forth. So by having wonderful circulation and space that is observable by administration really improves that, because security is addressed not only just by physical means, but it's also how the program is delivered in the school system. So working closely with the district and understanding how they want to administer the building is a direct result of how the building is organized. So we have security, as an example, as you come in, there's a locked vestibule. So you come into the vestibule, you can't move any further after the students come in early on. So you have to come in, you have to check in, and then you go to a particular location. So there's other implementations that we're doing with regard to cameras and other reinforcements in the building to make sure that you are slowing an event down is really what we try to do today. Yeah, we know that in an event that does happen, you can't always prevent, but what you can do is you can slow it down, and seconds are important for first responders. So we're working closely with the first responders to make sure we understand what their concerns are, both on the site circulation side and on the individual building side.
How about, just like there's that element of it, right, that you talked about, but there's other safety elements too, I imagine, like flooding and stuff like that. Some of these buildings have poor roofs. I don't know if we're one really bad storm away from, bad things happening. Is there any additional reinforcements related to those types of hazards?
Well, when you build new, you have the ability to be able to, in this case, raise the building, and that's what we're doing here. So we're totally out of the floodplain. And the things that have happened on that site before, particularly the high school, where there's been some challenges with some flooding, will not occur. So getting in and doing the geotechnical investigations and understanding what the substrata is and developing a design that it can be supported and making sure that we're well out of the floodplain. All the drainage that we're looking to introduce into the site is like bioswales as well, in addition to overflow, which would go into the storm drainage system. So the idea is to retain the storm drainage on site to slow that flow down downstream and to deal with it much as we can on site. And it's only when we get beyond that it flows out. So that happens currently on all new schools. We retain slow down so that it has less to no impact on other systems.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, good, Tony.
Good. Tony.
Just on the security, it was interesting to listen to you. And I've watched, I work in 2 different municipalities, and I've seen certain things being done to schools where they harden the vestibules, the entrance, the main entrance to the school. Yet the last 3 shootings did not come in through the area at all. So we have to be cognizant of that. In someone who lived through probably one of the first high school shootings at the Bristol High back then in the 80s, I experienced that. And not only that, I became a dean of students there, and we took quite a few precautions after that to, excuse me, to prevent that from happening. Let me just jump, but I don't want to get into the whole piece there. The Colt Andrews, it says create safer connection between Colt and Andrews. Interesting enough, I read in the newspaper that the town had authorized some plan to be executed there. Well, that's what I read. So, I have a little confusion about what's happening here, and I need a little more clarification. What do you mean by this here? Because when we say signed off on phase 2, okay, for stage 2, it's many of these things included on that, obviously, and it's not favorable on my part.
Sure. So we have begun conversations with, for example, the Historic Commission, because the Colt Andrews building falls in the Historic Commission, and we will have plans to come before this committee. No specific design has been created. What we talk about creating a safer environment is, we all know that's an open street. Bradford is a public way. We put up those lovely orange barriers currently at both ends of Bradford during the day. However, that doesn't prevent pedestrian access throughout the day in that area. We're just looking to create the safest connection possible between the 2 buildings. And so we're exploring several options. One of the options that was originally shared with the Historic Commission talked about, could we gate the 2 ends of Bradford Street with more formal historic looking gates that actually closed off the campus even to pedestrian traffic while school was in session, but could be opened when school was not in session at the end of the day. And on the days when there is no school, they wouldn't be closed. And the decision around what that looks like and how it interacts and does it allow for vehicle traffic or any of that, that's not been decided. Just that we want to make that a secure connection, and we've built into the cost estimates the ability to have a gate and do some work in that area. But no specific design has been decided. We'll do that together because we know that's a public way, and that's not a decision we'll make on our own as a school department.
Well, it was very unfortunate. There's a sketch in the newspaper, and it said the town approved it. And I go, certainly not me. That was the first I ever seen that draft.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember saying that it approved it, but we did share it with the town. So it should have said it was shared, but we have not. No, nothing has been approved. Actually, none of the plans have been approved. That's what we're submitting. We're submitting a review of the things that we would like to do. And then RIDE will tell us, yes, you can do that. No, you can. Well, they won't tell us we can do it. They'll tell us, yes, we'll reimburse you if you do that. Or no, we won't reimburse you if you do that, which will have an impact on the decisions we make moving forward. But in terms of the streetway, that's not a decision that we'll make on our own. We will do that in concert with both the council and the Historic Commission.
So, but this is not the final plan, am I correct? I mean, it's telling RIDE what they want to do.
Right.
But they may say yes, they may say no on certain components. But as you move into the next phase, is there ability to make changes?
Yeah, so, and I'll let Chad speak to that, but yes, we have a whole list. We have been working diligently with the building committee to create not only a list of all the things we would like to do, but then things that we know, we're calling them alternates, that if we have the money. So I'll give you a safety example as an easy one. So if we can afford ballistic glass in those entryways or on the first floors of our building or on those exterior exits, we'll do that. If not, we have it. That's as an alternate. We have this other film that you can put on glass that does a similar safety prevention strategy, but costs less. So we put all of those options in so that RIDE can review them, tell us, yes, we'll reimburse you on this or not. And then we can make choices based on the budget through the building committee process and then the school committee.
So my colleagues actually hit on some points. The letter that's on our agenda to approve is much different than what we initially started. You, Tony, you brought up about Colt Andrews. That's obviously this council approves that. That doesn't happen without this council saying yes or
Right.
no to. But here was my point on saying that, Mary, you hit it too, is that this letter does not say we approve all of this that's in front of us.
Right.
This council actually just got this tonight. So there is no possible way we could be fully informed, nor are you asking us to.
Correct.
So what
Correct.
you're asking for is to achieve your requirement by RIDE to take the next step so we can take advantage of the bond, potentially take advantage of the bond. So the letter, the way it's written, I did work with the superintendent. So we would make sure that this council, if we see that we want to take the next step, we're not committing ourselves to things we don't even know what we're committing to.
Right. Just the next
This-
step in the process.
That's right. And this letter says that we do believe that these improvements should happen,
Right.
whatever they ultimately be. Example, I happened to be at the most recent building committee meeting, and I was there for about 45 minutes, and there was lots of dialogue, and don't worry, there was lots of dialogue about geothermal heating and great discussion, but it was one of the things that said, should this go forward or should it not? And on some of the buildings, it was decided that probably it doesn't make sense. I think there's going to be a lot more of that. I was concerned that this council did not have their name next to something that said, we're doing all of these things, or we're not doing all of it. We don't have enough information to go there. I do believe, and obviously I'll leave this up to my colleagues for themselves, but I do believe we have enough information to say, yes, we want to take the next step to allow you to continue to do your research, to continue to find out, can we take advantage of the full reimbursement? And said another way, you said 80%. So that means that if we borrow $1, the state is giving us 80 cents back for each one of those dollars. That's a tremendous reimbursement. I know my colleagues know that, but I wanted to share that for the public. So Mary.
So well, two things. I was going to ask a question about CTE, but I don't really need to. I agree 100% with what you just said. I mean, this is, I think, when push comes to shove, this is about RIDE understanding that you're not doing this in a vacuum, that, the town is supportive of the concept of going forward, making sure that we can get the as much reimbursement as possible. The fact that we're putting it on a ballot question, and so forth. And I think a lot of it has to do with that. And I don't think any of us want to stand in the way of that, because it's a sort of unprecedented amount that we may be eligible for. I think that it's not all going to happen, as soon as we can get moving, the better. But the way costs are rising, who knows what the changes may have to be down the road. So I would just make a motion that we support, send a letter of support for phase 2. I believe they use the word stage 2.
Submission of stage 2.
Stage 2, supporting the concepts of the design that I don't know if you can say concepts, but of the designs that we have so far, and that we are sort of enthusiastic to get whatever amount of money we can to upgrade our facilities.
If we drop the last sentence, and Tim, I apologize for interrupting. If we drop the last sentence, I think the words are right there perfectly.
Oh, you already did it? Oh, you
So,
already got
yeah.
that.
So I'll second that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
there's, all
didn't-
right, so there's a motion made by Mary and seconded by Aaron. Discussion. Tim.
I just wanted to say, this doesn't lock
Oh,
us
yeah, right.
into the design. This is going to be a good thing. And I think we all need to understand that education is the greatest equalizer out there. And, we all know that improving the quality of our school buildings are essential for improving the achievement for our kids and the future of our community. So I'm just so happy my colleagues are in support of this, and we're moving forward with this. And 83% possibly reimbursement, that's huge, huge. We don't want to walk by that. So.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I
Thank you.
didn't- I did not recognize someone who wanted to speak. So that motion is made and follows, but I will allow you to speak. And I actually, Superintendent, I did not ask you to recognize, and I apologize. We have school committee members here and I should have had them recognized. Would you do that for us, please? Thank you.
So I have the chair of our school committee is here, Nikki Piper,
Thank you.
and our vice chair and also my co-chair on the building committee, Adam, is also here.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming. Peter? If you could state your full name, I got your first, if you do the last part and your address for the record.
Drive,
please.
Bristol.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I was at the meeting, or I listened to, no, I was at the meeting on September 7th, which was supposed to be, I believe, the stage 2 presentation where the school committee, I don't think the building committee was there, would be voting on specifics on the stage 2 that would be going forward to RIDE on September 15th, I believe. My concern is in your letter, the town council's letter of support, and I think you've clarified it tonight. I hope it's not an imprimatur on what is being submitted on September 15th.
So I'm going to take a moment and answer that question by reading it because it is very, very brief. Bristol Warren Regional School District is working on our Stage 2 capital plan application to Rhode Island Department of Education, which is due by September 15th, 2023. We would greatly appreciate your consideration to support our application by submitting a letter of support. Our Stage 2 application submission will consist of improvements to existing elementary schools and the middle school, as well as proposed new high school buildings within the district. We believe this plan is of great significance to our community and will contribute significantly to the improvements of our educational facilities and overall well-being of our students. Stop. Now, obviously, there's a couple of words that need to be cleaned up on
Yeah,
there, but you
okay.
get the gist. That's what we're committing to.
Well, speaking personally, I have not made a decision yet whether or not the new school, the new high school is a want or a need. And I'm leaning more towards the fact that it's more of a want than a need. And contrary to your view, Tim, I don't believe a new school is necessary to improve proficiency levels. You can improve proficiency levels by other means other than a new building, all right? Now, I realize the existing high school right now has been a mistake from day one, all right? But it's been around for 50 years. It's served the purpose. So I'm kind of reluctant to just jump into a $200 million bond issue, which is going to have an impact on, notwithstanding the 63 or 83, or perhaps neither reimbursement from the state. There's no guarantees here. And they have the school committee and the submission has to justify or satisfy all of RIDE's requirements for every submission before $1 of reimbursement is provided, okay? And even with the reimbursement, whether it's 63 or 83%, you're still talking about anywhere from $70 million to $140 million of property tax increase to pay for that which is not reimbursed. It's a lot of money on the tax base. We have an awful lot of elderly people living in Bristol who are living on fixed incomes, property tax rates being what they are. A lot of people are being kind of almost forced to consider whether they're going to move out of their house they've owned for 50 years. So there are a lot of issues involved.
Peter, if
But
I
on-
may, and you can certainly finish your point, but you threw dollars out there for a moment that I don't necessarily agree with, just for clarity, is if the bond proposed is for $200 million. If reimbursement is at its, we'll call it its highest level in easy math, 80%, that would leave a remaining balance of $40 million.
Not if you consider the interest on the bond. The interest on the bond is about $173 million. So the reimbursement, I think, encompasses both the principal of the bond and the interest. But the 63 or 83% of $373 million, principal plus interest, comes out to either, I think roughly speaking, $75 to $135 million, depending on whether it's a 63% reimbursement or an 83% reimbursement. I've asked somebody locally here to kind of confirm, and I think that was actually, I just picked up an old document I picked up on and it indicates 173 million $348,435 is the interest on a $200 million bond at 4.5% interest rate. So those are town figures. But my point is, I think for your purposes and for the town's purposes, the residents' purposes, and I've asked the school committee last night, September 7th at a meeting, could we not come out with a laundry list, an itemization of how we're spending, and they've told me they're committing the $200 million. They're going to spend the $200 million. How much of it's going to be for the new high school with all of the ancillary costs involved with the athletic fields, the demolition of the old school, et cetera, the landscaping, irrigation. I think the architect the other night at the meeting told me that's about $150 million, leaving $50 million left for the alternates that Ms. Riley spoke about, the items that they'd like to have with regard to all the other schools. But they don't know if they're going to get them until they submit it on the 15th of September. And RIDE may or may not grant or approve all parts of the $200 million. I would like to know what does the $150 million of the new high school consist? What's the itemization of that laundry list of construction costs and demolition costs and landscaping costs? And then if that's $150 million, what is the intent of the September 15th submission to laundry list the other $50 million they'd like to have, the wish list? You know, they may want $80 million worth of stuff, but they're limited to $200 million bond issue. I just don't know what it is we're planning to spend our $200 million bond issue on. And I think it may not, if it's going to be submitted by September 15th, I assume that there has to be a laundry list of items with a dollar item attached to each item, whether it's geothermal or whether it's irrigation or rerouting, parking around Kickamuit, or whatever the issue might be. There has to be a line item cost projected by the architect or by PMA or by Perkins and Eastman for each one of those items up to the $200 million cap. All right. I think you need to know that. I would like to know it. And I think the residents of Bristol would like to know that ideally before it gets submitted to RIDE on September 15th. But if not, then at least certainly prior to the time residents are going to be asked to vote to approve this thing.
So a couple things.
I'm sorry.
So a couple things is that asking for a list of what's going to happen and how the money's going to be spent is
stage two.
No, absolutely reasonable. Absolutely reasonable. I agree 100%. Not to the micro level, like not down to the pencil, if you will, but generally speaking, absolutely reasonable request. What my understanding is, and Superintendent, please correct me if I'm wrong here, where we are at the moment is not that granular. We are at a place where we're taking that next larger step, but your request is a reasonable request. It's also ours. And as you notice, I qualified that for my colleagues and I and the public to say that we're not ready to say, yes, we are ready to say, and we've already taken the vote, right? That we are ready to say this is appropriate and it should go to its next step. That next step doesn't mean that we know all of the things that you asked. We want to know too. So I think you said that well, but that's not where we're at now. And Superintendent, correct me if I'm wrong with that, if you would, please.
So
Peter, if you would, thank you.
I do want to clear up one bit of misinformation that I want to be clear is to the public. It's not $150 million for the high school and $50 million worth of wish list. That's not what I said before. That other $50 million is for all of that. You kept hearing the words MEP at all the other schools. That's improvements that have to be done for the mechanical, MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades.
Thank you.
These are not nice to haves, they're have to haves. What's on our alternate list is when we scope out the $200 million, if our estimators are high, and we are doing cost estimates on all of these plans, and I think Chad can probably give a timeline on that for you, we have to present that to RIDE, and it will be on our website as soon as we have them in hand. But doing all of this work and leading up to Friday, what we submit to RIDE is a document about this thick with all of that information, and it will all be published on our website. It's not a document that we could sit here and go through unless you wanted to be here for many hours, but all of that will be completed by Friday. Am I correct, Chad?
That's right.
I'll let him just clean that up. But I want to be clear, $50 million isn't a wish list. That's all the work that has to be done at the other schools.
I'll give Peter some leeway on his
Okay.
verbiage because I believe that he meant it. Well,
Just
I
making
think
sure
we
the
cleared it
public
up.
knows it's not a wish list.
I don't think we took it
But
that way,
I
so
do-
it's okay.
I
So,
do think that, that is something for the vote.
Correct.
Like the public will need to make that determination. I believe we capped it at 200 million. We took a vote.
Correct.
The Joint Finance Committee. And I mean, the bottom line is that the state has put forward this, and the voters of Rhode Island, basically, because it's state bond money, that they put forward this very aggressive sort of timeline, giving people, and if you want to be in the game to be able to compete for this money, here's your timeline you need to meet.
Correct.
And I think that is, and you need to make sure that your constituencies or your stakeholders, like the town and everyone, is aware of that and aware of where this plan is as of right now. It could not pass in November. Hopefully that's not the case, but it could not. So I think it's just like one step at a time. This is a requirement, and we want to make sure that we have done everything we can to satisfy that requirement if we want to see this project move forward.
Right.
Thank you. And that is a point that I did not make, but those bonuses expire. So that
Right.
extra 20% only extends until June 30th of 2024. And then all we're eligible for is, not that it's all, but only 63 versus the 83. So that's when we talk about the big dollars, 200 million, there's quite a difference between 63 and 83. So that's why our quick work to get this submitted now so that we're eligible for the 83 versus the 63.
so I'll tell you this though, is that I thought Peter brought up some great points,
Mhm.
and that breakdown of where the money hoping to go, how it's being spent, is very, very appropriate on it. And I do believe that the public needs to know those
Mhm.
things.
Yep.
And I also believe it's your full intention to give the public
Absolutely.
all of that information way prior. So the time is there to be able to digest it. It cannot be days before. It needs to be. And I said this at the Joint Finance Committee, and I know my colleagues feel the same way, is that we need to make sure the public is fully informed. It can't be almost, it can't be, I know you said you've gone to think, and I believe you've done great effort so far, but I think you need to do a Herculean effort to make sure that they understand. And for example, Peter brought up about how the money with interest is obviously it's more than the principal itself.
Correct.
Totally makes sense. But how does that actually break down? That would be an important question. I mean, is 200 million actually X million, right? How much are we actually borrowing at the end of the day? Does the state refund us in X time? Do they pay us over 10 years? What does it really mean? I don't want to answer those questions tonight, right?
Sure.
But they need to be answered. right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's great that you're going to be publishing all that, so everybody has time to full transparency to take a look at it. So
The
that's
cost
great.
estimates are by school, so
Yep.
they
Yep.
can go through them each by school.
Excellent.
Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, I just like to, my support for the letter, rise. It's clear that all of the schools need a tremendous amount of work.
You do.
It's nice to see that we're gonna get, even if it's 63%, not the full 83%, we're gonna be paying, in the future to make these repairs, millions of dollars. And I think we're gonna look back and say we missed a once in a generation, investment from the state, so.
Mhm.
Obviously, it needs to be tracked. It's the point, and we're not overspending, but we need to make investments in schools. 21st century buildings need help.
Great.
Couple of points on the repairs, the making improvements. I believe the architect slant project manager has indicated the priorities of the facilities conditions assessment indicates $28.6 million is the total that would be required to do the remediation work that they've discovered, they've identified. But on the other note, the $150 million item that I came up with is as a result of my attending the meeting on September 7th with the school committee, I asked these questions, and I think I was told by this gentleman that the construction cost for the high school involved would be 150 million. So therein lies my 150 million for the school and 50 million for the wish list. Excuse me for using a wish list. I'm thinking about the alternates or the alternatives. There's the base scope and then there's the alternatives. And I think a large part of the stage 2 meeting was going over all of the other desires to do work on the schools that need to be done above and beyond the cost of the high school. That's where I got the 150 versus the 50 million. So thank you very much.
Especially with the point was 28.6 million of existing investment. If you don't go forward, go 200,000, 83%, and 83% reimbursement. Hopefully they you get that. That's 34 million that we have to pay forward. We also have warrant system. So to get a brand new high school that's energy efficient, geothermal heating system, the savings in the long run on the heating of that building alone also needs to be calculated. So I know the consultants and the engineers are looking at this. We're following it on the building committee. Everything's pointing into investment. I know this is very general at this point, but it's like a once in a lifetime investment that
So I know the council agrees because we already voted on this about 20 minutes ago. So we're going to move forward with this. Thank you all. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I3, and we have the Bristol Police Department in regards to request for council support for the trunk or treat to be held on October 29, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we support it, but do a little bit more, be a little more generous and go for 1,000.
What did we do last year?
500?
So you're doubling it?
Was 1,000 last
That's a
year.
lot of
Inflation,
candy.
right?
I think I
Inflation. I'll
need-
second that, Tony.
Yeah.
So you're doubling it too? All right. So we have a
Hey,
motion.
It's a lot
and a
easier to
second.
deal with that number than some of the other ones we've been dealing with.
Yes,
right?
twice as much. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Discussion?
Thank you.
Brevity is key. Nice job. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
That's
Nice
all-
job trying to get us to spend more money. Outstanding job.
Appreciate it. Thank
You got it.
That's a lot of sugar.
There's an old sales saying, which is when they say yes, stop selling. So, good for you. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I4. This is public notice from CRMC for Haffer and Associates Corporation, 4500 South Lakeshore Drive. And this is for 333 Papa Squash Road, and this requires response by September 25th. We have recommendation from the harbor master to receive and file.
Based on the positive recommendation, motion to receive and file?
I'll second that with some discussion. Very
Motion
quickly.
made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Discussion?
Yes, I know every time one of these come up, I know it always says, the last sentence on the harbor master says, my recommendation is for the boarding facility to be built as designed by the engineer. Well, let's put this way, who is the engineer paid by? By the owner who's requesting this. So I would always be very cautious as to, are we infringing any of our, waterfront that could reduce the accessibility for some of our citizens, So I would just be a little cautious because this is pretty lengthy as I was reading how far it goes into the water, into the harbor.
It is quite large.
Speak for the harbor master, and the harbor commissioner, so the one day he had no.
Thank you.
No, I hear you, and I know, we're looking and go, it's okay, but we continue to approve one after the other, and hopefully 20 years from now, we're not gonna say, what do we do?
Thank you. Wait, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I5, and we have Water Pollution Control Superintendent Joe De Silva. And this is a presentation of the improvements and repairs at the main lift pumping station.
Good evening. So as you all know, there are quite a lot of moving parts at the sewer department that help us keep the bay clean. And one of those critical pieces of equipment is the main lift station. It is the culmination of our collection system, 100 miles of public sewer main and 10 other pump stations bring that water to the main lift station. And from there, it is conveyed into the facility. We do have a PowerPoint, Eric, if you can put that up. That pump station has within it 2 6-foot in diameter screw pumps that are 30 feet long, inclined at about 60 degrees, with the potential, or rather the capacity to move 2 million to 13 million gallons a day. And as the fire chief had explained earlier, we get these significant storms. We see that increase of water quite a bit, and these are the best way to convey that water into the facility so that we can do the treatment.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt for just one quick second. The images that were in the packet, there's a revised version on the council that I gave today. It's received at meetings, so this
Thank
one's
you.
actually revised. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanna, I forgot to mention that earlier. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jose.
Yes, if you can move to the next slide, we have a diagram of that right there. That's pretty much showing you at the incline what it's doing as it's moving that water. And a little history on that. So they were first installed in the mid-80s. And in 2005, we had a catastrophic failure. Those pumps, you got to understand, one is functioning at every day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's a lot of maintenance, and it's a mechanical piece of machinery that does wear down and needs replacements. So in 2007, after that catastrophic failure, and in that failure, we had basements that were flooding. We couldn't move that water for 8 hours until we got another company in with bypass pumping. We had a lot of issues. We even got on the radar for the EPA. We had a lot of things we had to do. It cost an awful lot. In 2007, we had those pumps replaced by Hot Engineering. It was $1.8 million to do so. And that doesn't include all the bypass rentals of pumps and everything else. Probably ended up costing about $3 million at that time. So we've been on top of it. We even had the company representatives. They were surprised at how well we've been maintaining it. But as I say, it's a lot of wear and tear. In 2007, they had been replaced. 2017, we asked for an evaluation. Then we started having some problems. Seals were going. We had to change out the Paraflex coupling, the gearbox and such. In 2023, in March, we started hearing some things. We had them come down and take a look, and the problem is that just as much as you like a certain brand of a car, you have it long enough, the parts don't match up. If you're driving a 2005 car, and you got that same model today, the parts don't always line up. We've been in conversation with them. We have quite a few, go ahead.
What is so what is failing, and what, at this point, what do we need to do?
We need a new Paraflex coupling, a upper gearbox. We have an old one. They're recommending us we get a new one, but the configuration just doesn't match up. So that's some decisions we have. We got estimates of 4 parts to do it of about 220,000. But to get the work to be done, we have accessibility problems. We have the weight, we have to support them. It's gonna be quite a bit. And we don't want to go through what we did back in 2005.
Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Administrator.
So the two screw pumps off from Wood Street, they run 24/7. We bring all the wastewater from the pump, the plant elevates it. The gearbox is where they're attached at the top of the two, those two screws. You see one of them in the middle there?
Yep.
The photo. The gearbox is and all the mechanisms there that attach it to the motors and the gearbox.
So what I heard was we have a well-maintained piece of equipment that is failing. So we've done what we were supposed to do, but there are issues with it that we need to fix.
Yes. and
What's the
it's-
cost for fixing?
Right now, we have for the parts alone, about $220,000.
Okay. And then
Um,
additional to that for,
Probably double that for the actual labor. And then, so call it about $500,000.
Mr. Minister, those funds, we had a conversation at our last council meeting to authorize approximately $500,000 for, I think we called them overruns. They really weren't. They were additional issues that we found, that this is a separate issue unrelated to that, correct?
Yeah, so
Yes.
that, the funds that we asked for is $9 million we spent in electrical upgrades, and solids.
Solid handling.
All the other projects. This is something that is developed over the summer. They've been investigating. At this point, we're not asking for money, but we want you to be aware that you will be asking for money. You determine how much it's actually.
Yeah, and that has been one of the issues is getting the final number from the company. We're exploring some options. Engineers here from Beta may be able to answer the question also.
Do I recall that after the conversation that we had with the contributions to this budget cycle, we would net, even though we were spending that 500, that account would end up in around the 800 zone? Am I remembering that correctly? If,
Where we left off in Sarah was 2021, we're at 700,000, so we put back on 700,000.
2022, it was 1.8 million. So with the subtraction of the 500,000, it's 1.3 million.
so is it fair to say that the funds are available in that? So we could take 500 from that fund, and would we be dangerously depleting it?
No, in 21 and 20, they were both around 700,000, 770. So it's still above.
And we continue to contribute to it also, right? Okay. So what I heard, and I think Mary wants to say something too, is what I've heard is that we have an issue. It's been well maintained, but it still needs to be replaced, even though we've done what we were supposed to do.
Sure.
The
We-
approximate cost is $500,000. We have the funds in the appropriate location to be able to address this. Am I missing anything?
I just had a quick question.
Of course, and Mary, I think you want
Um,
to.
Jose,
go
I
ahead,
just had, oh, sorry, Mary, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, if we do all of this, which, how much time does that buy us versus like, what would the cost be if we were to rebuild them or get like new ones?
It's like a lot of things right now, it's the lead time. We're talking, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that roughly about 6 months to get some of the parts. That's why.
To fix,
fix.
for this proposal.
Yes.
Okay.
What Mary's question,
My question was like,
Right.
what would this cost to rebuild the whole thing or to get new?
That is something we've been working on. We've been talking to the manufacturer to see what it would be. I mean, back in 2007, it was $1.8 million. That's at that day's money. So
that's a full
So even
replacement. right?
that, I mean, even then, it's like 3 or 4 times more than what this
Yeah.
would cost us now.
Yeah.
I mean, what would we be getting out of this? Like 5 years, 10 years, 25 years?
I would hope at least 10 years.
To further your car analogy.
Yep.
Are we rebuilding a motor in a 300,000 mile rusted car? Or are we taking care of an issue that will have a good running car continue to run for many years?
I think we would be repairing a car.
I'm using your analogy.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just going there,
I
so-
know, and
Yeah.
I think we will get a good amount of time out of it.
Okay. So you think it's an appropriate, and Chris, please weigh in, engineer?
So I think the repair is needed to continue to operate the system, right? The lead time associated with the repair is short, where the lead time associated with new pumps would be much longer. We did just hear back from the manufacturer today. The cost of a new pump is $1 million per pump. But what makes things so difficult at this facility is the access. In order to replace pumps, you got to take the roof off. You got to crane out the pumps that are there now. You have bypass pumping operations going on. It could easily escalate to 6-7 million, I would project. But that time is coming. They will need to be replaced. This is buying some time, and it's necessary to do so.
You know, I got to tell you, I liked the police request for $1,000 a lot more than this one. Yeah.
I'm glad that we didn't follow the tequila
Yeah.
restaurant.
Just saying. Mr. Administrator, do you want to add?
Had all the stairwells replaced recently. We've been investing in the lift station. It's in good shape.
It is in good shape.
It's an old system. It's a very reliable system. We're not interested in replacing it. It's just keeping it from the rest of the facility. The facility is actually really coming home. Investment is really unbelievable. So I think we want a choice. We have to fix the gearboxes. Good pumps.
I just wanted to be clear on the amount. I saw there's a bypass pump rental for 40K. So is the total 510 or 500?
About 510.
It is 510.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just wanted to know, are we building into our budget, Sarah, in regards to maintenance costs for these? Little bit by little bit by little bit, putting a little bit aside for maintenance of these. That way, when we get to 10 years from now, we've built into some of these costs.
I think going forward, that should be something we do.
I'm sorry?
I think going forward, that should be something we do build into the budget.
Something we should do. Okay.
So one more time. It makes sense to take this next step. It's appropriate. We have 10, nobody knows how long it'll be, but knowing how it's been running, approximately 10 years of life left on it. If we were to explore Mary's question, you're talking $4 to $6 million to do that. I'm glad you asked the question, Mary. So I like my number better. I'm going to go with 4 to 6. So the request for this evening is just for information, so we knew what was going on.
Tonight is good and bad. The good news is there was catastrophe. The good news is we want to maintain our equipment. The bad news is we will be asking some.
Yep.
So that you're not surprised. This is development.
And that funds already exist in the enterprise fund. So, okay. All right.
I mean, it's approximately 510,000 from what we're seeing here. So even if you add something to that, it's under $1 million. And would it be, maybe not today, but at like the next meeting, to get like preliminary authorization from the town? So if it takes 6 months to get the parts, that you could at least get that in the hopper, so to speak, like if, like they're gonna do it, we just need the final number, like, so we could approve up to like, say, 800,000. And, you know, with the intent that it's gonna be around this 500,000. Instead of waiting another couple of months until those numbers may get refined. I don't know, I just a thought that I had.
And not to exceed amount.
Mike,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're being asked that, probably that question right now. It's advertised as presentation. Is it enough advertising that?
Yes, because the beginning of the agenda says that it's your intent to act on each and every matter. You had a full presentation here. If you wanted to go that route, you could.
I don't have any objection. I don't know why we would. I don't question whether or not we need this. I don't need you to come back, as already pointed out, to ask us again. Honestly, it sounds very appropriate. I am not spending, nor my colleagues, money willy-nilly, but it needs to get done. So
It's essential, right?
Yeah.
It's essential health.
So let's get a
Yeah.
motion for, what is it, the 510? Is that what we're thinking? That the maximum dollar figure, $510,000?
Well, that's what they don't know right now.
And so
So to that end, what I just, so we don't need, let's authorize, let's
Yeah.
do that. Can we get a motion that authorize the administrator and the director of water pollution control to? There it is.
Second.
Discussion?
What's this motion? It's just not
To
to
go out to
exceed.
bid.
To go out to
Just
bid.
go out to bid.
Okay.
That's it.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just have to ask a question. This isn't a sole provider, it's your box, you still will bid.
It's a good question. I think it is sole provider. I don't know if they make aftermarket equivalents.
Is
I
there
can
any
find that out.
reason? We can go out
Yeah.
to bid and get a bid of one, right? So
And these gonna have to be fabricated individually for to match up with what we already have, is that it, or?
Yeah, so the hope is that they've got some of these on the shelf, but worst case is that, you know, it's their equipment, they have them in
And
stock.
that's where the cost can increase if they have to make them.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we don't really have too much of
choice.
too much of a choice. I mean, it's something that we can't have, this is a system that can't fail for lots of reasons, and with all this crazy weather we've been having, it could even be, we don't, we've done a lot of work there, I think we have to go forward, and with the lead time on all these projects, I
Yeah.
think we need to just get it in there, get it ordered or whatever, how are we gonna figure that out while we're getting the bids and so forth.
Mr. Administrator, Jose, Chris, are we missing anything before we take this motion? Colleagues, anything else?
Just very briefly, just out of curiosity, we have two of those, am I correct? Am I
Two pumps.
reading this? Okay. How's the condition of the other one?
Well, they're both on here.
They
We're
both-
looking to do
Yeah.
both.
We're doing
need-
both.
Okay.
So just about as good as the other one, right?
Yep. It's there.
In the event that these fail, the backup pump.
Centrifugal pump. But the capacity of that pump that's sitting on the ground is not the full capacity of the screw pump.
And
That-
typically things fail at the worst time, so it would be the highest flow and it wouldn't keep up with it. So,
Exactly.
gotcha. All right.
Original catastrophic event did occur during a rainstorm. We were at 13 million gallons per day when we had that catastrophic event. The Godwin pump that is there, it pumps 6 million. That's good for when we need to do maintenance, but we do that in a dry weather event where our flows might be 3-4 million gallons and well within the capacity of that Godwin.
So we have a
Understood.
motion and a second
Mhm.
to authorize administrator and director to go out to bid, superintendent, thank you, to go out to bid, and we can open that at our next council meeting, and we've already discussed everything. Any other conversation?
Yeah.
Hearing
thank-
none. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, just thank you, Jose, for a clear presentation and keeping a vigilant eye
Mm-hmm.
on everything down there. So
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, next item on the agenda is K1. This is one Mark Bristol, the chairman of the Bristol County Water Authority, with the Tri-Town Monthly Report.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
We have GG form, we have citizens public forum.
So,
And then Tony's, right?
yeah, we got GG4 next.
Oh, okay.
What did I do with it? No. Yeah.
So go ahead, Tony.
Yes, I do. I pulled GG4 because this is a letter from the town manager, Mary Ann Crawford, from the town of New Shoreham. And this is relevant to the fire, to our fire department assisting, as mutual aid on the most recent incident that we know, that it took down one of the main buildings in the downtown area, so to speak. It is actually, they call it the downtown Block Island. So certainly this proves that we always willing and ready to provide mutual aid, and certainly is appreciated because she refers to is the immeasurable assert to our communities and the bravery of our firefighters.
Outstanding.
So certainly, it could have been a lot worse had it not been for our assistance.
Thank you for pulling that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no.
recognizing the fire department again.
Yep.
Can we have a motion to receive?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Aaron to receive and file. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. As I always do, Mr. Solicitor, could you just give the guidelines of the citizens forum, please?
Sure. The citizens forum gives the public the ability to come up and express their views on various subjects. Obviously, those subjects are not on the agenda, so you can't really have discussion, et cetera, and listen and take it under advisement. If at some future point you want to come on the agenda, feel free to.
Excellent. My request, so Allison Aruda was first on the list. There is no particular time frame or requirement, but I ask everybody just to be as brief as possible. But the floor is
Okay,
yours.
thank you.
If you
I'm
could state
Allison-
thank you, name and address for the
Allison
record.
Aruda, 52 Viking Drive in Bristol.
Thank you.
I live down the Hopeworth community and my driveway is about 20 feet from a path going into the woods. And this is about the bow and arrow shooting, the hunting that's going to be happening in Bristol. I wish I knew about this earlier. I only found out myself about a week ago. I got online, I started researching it. I started making a few comments and then it flooded. People started flooding me and making comments and messaging me. So somehow I became the spokesperson. And it's sort of great because I do live in a neighborhood. I also grew up down Elmwood Drive. My grandparents lived down Elmwood Drive, and I remember being a child and running through those woods. So unfortunately, I know I'm super late on this, but as you know, all the emails I've been sending you, you can see my passion about this. I would be willing to be on a committee, and I'm trying my best to put it out there. So I try to gather all the information I could from all the people that have sent it to me. So a group of Bristol citizens and myself are asking for more time to look into better solutions to control the deer population. Many of us are just finding out about the bow and arrow hunting in Bristol. Only the property owners that are touching the hunting areas were notified. And now I'm finding out some of those weren't notified either. And we have one right here that's going to speak after that, who lives right on Elmwood Drive, right near the wooded area. Will you
The
feel
only
this is,
people, just for clarity, the only
Yes.
people who can speak are the people that signed up
think
before
he
the
did.
meeting. So if
Yes,
you're,
he
if you're
did.
one of those people, it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
I apologize for interrupting.
no problem. And we heard safety a lot. This was great. I'm a school teacher. I heard all about the school. So it was great that I came here and listened to all this. And I heard the word safety a lot. Okay, a lot in the schools. They want to make it better and safe for children. We feel this is unsafe for children, pets, hikers, and deer. I'm glad all these restaurants are coming to Bristol. I love Bristol. I've been living here all my life, and it's going to draw people to come to Bristol. But it's hikers are not going to come to Bristol when they see these signs, welcome at the end of Elmhurst, Elmwood Drive. it's contradictory. It has a big welcome to come hike in there. And today a little sign was put up to make sure you be careful and wear orange. So only after today, after all the emails, did some signs go up. I live near a path. There is not one sign. I have pictures today of people walking through that path with dogs and children, not one sign. I saw the signs being put up today. So we do have a few signs, so there's not many now. And the signs are tough to read. Some are really high if you will go on Hope Earth, and I can't read them unless I get some binoculars. We all read different research, and I've sent you some that will suit what we believe. I have sent some to your emails. One study says deer are causing Lyme disease. Another study I read, because it suited, my beliefs, said deer doesn't cause this at all. Let's put this aside and think about our neighborhoods. Do we want trucks parked all over our streets? Do we want to bring in strangers to our small communities? Do we want to risk someone or a pet getting hurt by an arrow? Do we want our children to witness dead deer getting put into trucks as they're coming home from school? Even worse, seeing the remains in the woods that they run and play in? Do we want to kill deer in an inhumane way like this? Not all hunters are going to be respectful to our neighbors. I have hunter friends. My brother was a hunter. This is nothing against hunters at all. I was with a hunter last night at the Red Sox game, and I talked a lot with him about this. The hunters that are experienced don't even want to come to this area. This is not a challenge. This is not a sport. In my backyard, there was a mother deer and a baby as I was coming here today. They're not bothering anybody. Please help us find a better way. I am willing to help. I'm willing to volunteer. Bristol should not be allowing hunters from all over coming into our neighborhoods. The trucks are already there. They've set up some kind of stages in the woods. They got the camouflage on. They're ready to go. This is scary to me. And being a teacher, being a grandmother, having my children in Hope Earth grow up and run in those woods. My son made a fort in those woods. I am passionate about this. We don't have the confidence that DEM will provide safe monitoring. I really don't. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the funds to do that. We've had on Viking Drive this year, someone that was tearing apart DEM property. It's been going on for 2 years. This person is finally moving out. The sign went up this week and we're all like, yay. I couldn't open my windows on nice days with the smoke that was coming into my home. We pay a lot of taxes down near Viking Drive and in Hope Earth, and we shouldn't have had to go through this. We are missing a lot of property now on Viking Drive. The logs have been rolling out. I have pictures of it. The smoke was burning. DEM took their sweet time to help with that. So I don't think DEM is going to help us. It's going to be put on our fire department. It's going to be put on our police department. I'm really passionate about this. There are a lot of elderly people and seniors. Mr. Marshall has been walking around. I do have a petition that started yesterday online, and I can give you some of those names now, and we are going to continue that. I have a group online on Facebook, Stop the Deer Killing in Our Small Neighborhoods in Bristol. I'm getting a lot of support. We're going to go around to these seniors and elderly that don't have the ability to get online and don't have computers to find out about all this. Mr. Marshall is walking door to door. We are getting signed petitions, which we will send to you. I can give you what I have now. I have, I think, about 60, 70 within maybe 24 hours that are to stop this. There's one elderly citizen that couldn't be here tonight, and she wanted to come here and talk. And I went to her home, and she promised me to read this letter. It's long. I'll try to go quick. And I know you know all this stuff, but if you don't want me to read it, I can hand it in. It has been a long night. But I don't know what we can do. I don't know what we can do at this point. Like I said, I wish I knew about this earlier. I would have been on a committee. I would have volunteered my time, and I would have helped to try to find a better way. There are better ways out there. There are people doing it in New Jersey. They're having Zoom meetings. They're showing the public how this can be done in a nonviolent way. So I thank you for your time. I hope you get back to us. I don't know what else to do, but we will continue petitioning and we will be continuing to try to keep our community safe, just like I heard at least 50 times about the safety with the schools. And being a school teacher and a physical education and health teacher, I want to see the little ones run around in the fields. I want them to feel safe. Not all kids are going to look up at this sign really high and say, ooh, I better run home and put orange on. This is not going to happen. Kids are going to run through those woods. You know it. There are going to be great hunters out there that are going to clean up. They're going to take it away. They're going to do the right thing. But there's going to be some that aren't. Just like there's not good teachers, there's great teachers. There are good councilmen. There's poor councilmen. There's going to be hunters out there that are going to abuse this. And I think DEM dropped the ball. Maybe they should have had their own experienced hunters and set a few up at each wooded area in Bristol. Somebody that they could monitor and we could count on. But no, we're bringing people in from Mass, from Connecticut, all over Rhode Island to Little Bristol to go out into these woods and shoot bow and arrows. And the inhumane part is, to tell you the truth, a gun would be more humane killing the deer than a bow and arrow. Not that I believe in that either, but it would be. If one of these deer gets shot and they limp away and that hunter is not responsible and does not chase down that deer, okay, that deer is going to go off and suffer. And of course, we know they suffer, they starve, they get hit by cars. We know all that. But do we need to try to cause this? As you can see, I'm compassionate about it. I don't know what else to do. If you need my help, I will continue the fight. I will continue sending my emails out there. I won't bug you guys as much because you're hearing me now, and I apologize for all those emails, but you can see my passion and how I get revved up and trying to do it in between working and this and that and taking care of my grandson. So I did the best I can. I hope I make all the people that have messaged me proud, and I hope I can make a difference. So if you ever need my help, I will be first in line to be on a committee to try to do safer ways of doing this in our great town of Bristol.
Thank you.
So thank you. And this letter is long from the senior that I got. So I will just I can read it or I can just hand it in.
Give it to the clerk.
All right, I'll hand it in with
Thank you.
what I have so far for petitions, only online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Marshall.
I can take that, Allison, running.
Okay.
Will you send it to us, Melissa?
Yeah.
Thank you, Town Council, Mr. Administrator. I had a conversation with
Mr. Marshall, would you please state your full name and address for the record?
William Marshall, 41 Elmwood Drive, Bristol.
Floor is yours.
I had a conversation with Mr. Contenti a while back, didn't go too good. But I'm asking this Town Council to please, and let me tell you why, reconsider exactly where you're having this hunting done. I live at the end of Elmwood Drive. I see many, many, many kids run down the road with their bike, drop their bike and run up the path. You can hear them going through the woods. Now, on Elmwood Drive, when you go up the trail, going from east to west, you have one path that goes from Elmwood Drive to Bordertown. Then you go north to south, which is the telephone lines. I believe there's no hunting there. So you go one illegal hunting on electric property. You go one path, and half that path, it's about 600 feet by 200 feet. Half that path Bristol does not own. So you are allowing hunting in the town of Warren, and Warren does not allow hunting. When these hunters get up there, they don't know what town they're in. I asked one councilman up there if they could please, and I asked Mr. Contenti this. I understand there's a problem with linemen, and if you're gonna thin out the herd, thin it out, but move it away from the walking trails just a little bit. Just move it away. You got over 100 acres up there. Just move it away. There's too many kids there. it's too congested an area to have 4 or 5 hunters up there. And I've been up there with 4 hunters. I had DEM up there, not DEM, environmental police, because one hunter was baiting already. Environmental police went up there and he told me he took care of it. But there's another hunter that has a tree stand. I mean, I'm just thinking of the kids, safety for the kids. Every house that has a fire escape, the ladder's 5, 6 feet off the ground. These tree stands, it's right down the ground. These kids can climb these ladders. I'm just asking the town council to please reconsider. Just move it away from the trails a little bit. There's too many kids there, too much traffic, way too much. We're not looking for problems. You might see something on Facebook where someone wrote to come down my house Saturday and have some type of rally or something. That's not going to happen. I'm not looking for trouble. I don't want trouble. Okay. But like she just says, it's going to be up to the police. Environmental police told me we can't be here. We just don't have the manpower to stay here to watch it. And you're going to get hunters. I was told by a hunter, he's very experienced. He says, you're going to get people up here that, for the heck of it, just to make the kill. And I really don't want to say this, hate to say this, but they're going to harvest them. I don't know what harvest, never knew what harvest meant. Meant they're going to cut them, take out their guts, take out their stomach. And that DEM says, I know the Phoenix said something different this week because Dylan is sugarcoating this. DEM says hunters can either take that, Mr. Contenti may know this, either can take that or leave it there for animals to eat. It's right on the walkways. I mean, if you look at Foster, I know there's parks that have hunting and walking. Foster is one of them. Their tree stands, if you look on the website, is 100 feet away from a walking trail. Bristol is 0. There's a tree stand that's 8 to 10 feet away from a walking trail. That's not good. I don't think. Just asking the town council, do what you have to do to control a deer. But please, one councilman considered, he thought it was a pretty good idea, but I didn't hear anymore. Just, can you move it away from the trails a little bit? Just a little bit. Just so kids can go up there, and there's a lot of kids that go up there, a lot of them. But I also heard, and I'm going to let you go, it's been a long night. I also heard that when kids run up there, if the deer's in a herd, like in a huddle, the kids are going to scare the deer and they're going to run. Well, I had a hunter, 4 hunters, 3 of them told me we're going to shoot from the shoulder. Now that grass is about 4 or 5 feet high. They're not going to see those kids. When that deer scatter, they hit that crossbow, which they tell me can go through a 3-inch thick piece of wood. You don't know where the arrow is going to go. Please, one question, but don't answer me. Would you want that on your conscience if a kid got hurt? Is it worth taking that chance for one kid to get hurt? Is it worth it? When you can just move it down? That's all we're asking. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contenti.
I'm sorry, sir. You can't speak because you didn't sign in prior to.
I asked him to sign in. He said I could go up and talk.
No, Archie, that's not correct. Is the meeting, it's our agenda actually says you have to sign in prior. I'm sorry.
Would you mind if I spoke?
Yes, because I have
Couple of
to,
minutes?
I have to follow the protocols. You are absolutely more than welcome to come to our next meeting.
This is already going to be passed with the hunting season. I have a few things I just want to say.
I'm sorry, I
Maybe
can't.
you're-
Tell me and I'll say.
No, I'm sorry.
Can I say?
No,
No?
you certainly had your moment to speak. I apologize, but I have to follow the protocols.
He lives,
You-
he
you-
lives right
you
on
know
the
me.
area too.
You know the area
And
I'm
he's
talking
talking
about
about the
on Tower
coyotes
Hill Road.
and the jumping into
You can apply for
fences.
that
and
area
That is a
for the
bigger
hunting.
problem.
And you
than
know
the
that.
deer.
And I think you know it too, Tony.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
And not at all.
Thanks you.
Not at all. I need a motion unless there's any other business, a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.